time for some disturbing recommendations. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and today I have got some disturbing book recommendations. Yes, you heard that correctly. I'm going to recommend some disturbing and far out there books that are just kind of weird, grotesque, just really messed up stuff. This is going to be part 1. We are still in the process of forming a part 2, but we want to kind of get through this one. These books disturbed me to a certain extent, and I'll explain within each book what I mean by what disturbed me. To others it might not be as disturbing, but to each their own. This is just my kind of list. So, and without further ado, let's get into the list. I would give you the warning to check the trigger warnings on each of these books on your own to try and see if it kind of matches up with something that might trigger you to where you are not going to want to read it, because I do not remember them. I'm just going to try and do my best not to spoil anything in these books, because I definitely don't want to do that, and just kind of tell you what irked me with them. So, first book up is The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. So, this book is about a neighborhood girl who is tortured by a bunch of neighborhood kids, and it just kind of exactly how it sounds. This book was hard for me to rate. It's a good story. The plot is something that you would definitely think of to be in a horror book. This is based off of a true event, which kind of made this harder for me to rate, because to me that's what kind of makes it too much, is that this was based off of a true story, and the things that were happening to this girl, you just really don't want to read that about somebody, especially if it's a true story.
It's well written, but it's not. It's a well written story, but it's not a great story. Yeah,
I think that's how I actually phrased it the last time I talked about it. It's a well written bad story. It's well written, but the story is bad. It's just it's something you don't want to read about. But it's just that's just kind of what irked me about it. What they were doing to her was just so bad. It just it just wasn't right, and that's why I'm putting this on this list. Jack Ketchum, The Girl Next Door. Alright, next up is Brother by Anya Alborn. So this book is more messed up than, I wouldn't say it's more messed up than the other one, but there are things in this book that make it it just makes it weird. This was a 5-star book for me. You're following a family. There's 2 brothers who do bad deeds. They're kind of bad kids. One of them is adopted, if I'm not mistaken, because it's these 2 brothers. One of them's an older one. The other one, it's supposed to be a George and Lenny situation, of Mice and Men. One's kind of a dimwit, and the other one's the brains of all the operations. And it's messed up to the point where it's good, and it's really good. The ending still kind of gets me a little upset with how it goes down, but it's just a big twist that happens. And what the older brother does to the younger brother, and what the younger brother eventually does to the older brother, it's just it's just messed up. And I absolutely was all for everything that happened in this book, which is unlike The Girl Next Door. But this book was really good. So there you have Brother by Anya Alborn. Alright, next up, I would honestly probably say is the most messed up out of all 5 of these. And that is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. Danielle read this book, and then she told me to read this book. She gave it 5 stars. I honestly don't even think I have a rating for this book. It's honestly one of the most messed up things I've read. in a long time. And so this girl is like selling some, like, I think it's like an apple peeler on some website. And this woman contacts her asking about it. And then they kind of start talking more commonly, more frequently, and they become friends. And then eventually, I can't even like tell you what happens in this. This is like, it's written in like email and like messaging format, so it's not like a normal like story. It's like, this email was sent at this time, and like this and that, and like it worked. But oh my god, this book, if you've read this book, you know what this book is. And I gotta tell you, I read this maybe almost a month ago, and no, it hasn't been a month. It's been a couple of weeks, and I'm still processing what the heck happened. Like, I think ultimately I gave it 4 stars when I talked about it. But like, realistically, this is like, I like don't, just like with The Girl Next Door, I don't even know how to rate this. But I would definitely read it though, because it's definitely a book you should read. But it's like,
disturbing.
What did I read? Things have gotten worse since we last spoke, Eric Baraka. Alright, next up. This is actually the book I've read the longest ago. And that's The Troop by Nick Cutter. This is a very messed up book. I gave it 5 stars. That's the thing, is 3 of these books are 5 stars, and they're phenomenal. You're following a troop, a like Boy Scout troop that travel to an island that apparently is being like part of some experiment, and none of the scouts know it. None of the troops know it. It's like this weird disease. It's like this tapeworm that lives in your body, and a lot of gross imagery is in this book. There's one particular scene with a turtle in this book that I still get very upset about, and it's just messed up. It's like, even the ending is a little messed up. And this is a book I want to reread too, by the way. If I were to pick like an honorable mention, My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix would probably be another disturbing book that I would definitely say would be in contention, which was also a 5-star book. Maybe I have a weird thing with grotesque books. I don't know. But yeah, this book was really good, and I highly recommend it. But just be ready, because there is some gross imagery. So there you have The Troop by Nick Cutter. Alright, the last one I'm going to talk about, I had a little bit of a struggle trying to pick a Stephen King book for this option. But ultimately, I think the one I picked definitely suits it well. And that is Pet Sematary. If you've read this book, you know why this book would be disturbing. This follows the family of the Creeds. They move into a new house, and you almost get put right into it, and it just goes. It takes off. This is a 5-star book. This book, like all the scenes with Zelda, which is the mom's sister, absolutely like horrific. What happens to Gage, absolutely horrific. What happens to Church, horrific. Like, what happens to Judd Crandall, horrific. Everything in this book is just a horrific thing. This is like, you can't have, this is not for the faint of heart. I will say that much. This book gets you, and it digs deep. Like, this is my second all-time favorite Stephen King book right now, and it's up there for good reason. One of my favorite lines in a book, sometimes dead is better. Absolutely love that line, Judd Crandall, U.G. But I absolutely love this book. It's disturbing in many, 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 many ways. So just be wary of this one. There you have Pet Sematary, Stephen King. Alright, so these were the 5 most disturbing books that I can think of for right now. Obviously, we're going to try and do other parts with this series, because there's a lot of disturbing books out there. Almost every Keelan Patrick Burke book could probably have its own list, if I'm being honest. But this, like I said, check out the different things with these, because they all have got different kinds of triggers on them. And be careful. Because like I said, with Pet Cemetery, I'm not lying. That book is deranged. We will have these 5 linked down below. Let me know some disturbing books that you could think of in the comments down below that I didn't mention here. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one. Later.